Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics. I am Evan Irwin, and we begin each week by introducing my two co-hosts, Aaron Campbell.
Joden Dach.
And Ruben Bressler.
Hi, how you doing?
Excellent. So, I will note that, Aaron, you were correct in that the rebooting earlier did not fix the freezing, but we will persevere.
Aaron, good news, bad news time. The good news is you're correct. It's everything you've ever dreamed.
It really is.
It really is.
It's what
bad
you
news
wanted.
is you're artifacting. You're artifacting worse than a goblin welder.
Wow. Wow. Just on the fly, ladies and gentlemen.
Also, we begin each week, as we do each week, with me accidentally interrupting your intro. And by accidentally, I mean doing it on.
Yeah, clearly, every single time, which is fantastic. So, as we begin with our first pick, and what was Magic players talking about this week? The number one thing, of course, would be conspiracy. Conspiracy, take the crown is here. Conspiracy 2, conspiracy harder.
Electric Boogaloo.
We're working. Hold on.
I'm just saying.
So we're not. Now,
We're just
Magic
all
players.
from all angles.
Magic players need that conspiracy. Now, what we need. We'll get to conspiracy here in a moment because we got to satiate Aaron. We got to make sure she's good. On the screen right now, I'm bringing it up. I'm bringing it up right now. Ladies and gentlemen, the Magic Mike's water bottle. Oh my God.
Yay!
Woo! Magic Mike's water bottle.
Beautiful.
Yep, I just sent real American currency to a production facility who will be getting us those. And anyone who is $20 or higher on our Patreon, between now and the time that they actually show up, I will send everyone who is $20 or higher on Patreon a water bottle. So
Awesome.
That's the thing. You have to have your aquatic intake branded. It needs to have a logo to make it really quench.
Right. This is.
Or if you boys just wanted to press us up against your lips. I mean.
Yeah. Hashtag thirst. This is like Dasani is not a sponsor of the show yet. Gotta get some.
Why do you think I always make sure that when I drink something, my logo faces the camera?
That's right.
I should. Well, we're blocking those out from now on until.
You gotta keep that branding. Gotta make it happen.
Gotta keep that, and you also gotta stay hydrated. So
that's right. You guys...
Be sure to use the Magic Mics. Do we got the hashtag thirst on those?
We should have the hashtag thirst, but we don't. What we have is a logo, and it's going to be a beautiful logo. It's the best logo.
Yeah, it is.
We have the best logos.
We have the best logos.
I'll tell you what. Whenever I see anybody with a Magic Mike's water bottle, and they want me to sign it, I will sign it hashtag thirst. That is my promise to you.
Nice. We will have the swag on our website for sale. We're going to have extras. I got a bunch of extras.
I'm not a $20 Patreon subscriber because I don't watch this show.
Yeah,
but
you're going to have to work a little harder, dude.
As I've said many times,
a little harder.
I don't watch this show, but I will buy a bottle.
We're going to have to start watching our own show, Ruben, because Evan started making GIFs of us. And so we're going to have to find our best moments so Evan can make them GIFs.
I need you to tell me. I need the people at home, the people who listen to the show, who watch this show. Bless you, everyone. And we want to make the gifts. We want to make the best gifts. We have all the gifts. I know the best people to make the best gifts. And we're going to build a wall of gifts. And you know what? The patrons are going to pay for it. That's what's going to happen.
Wow.
Whoa.
Wow.
Whoa.
Oh,
Okay.
man.
Okay. All right. Silliness abounds. There's a Magic Mike's water bottle. We're pretty excited about it. It took a long time for our Patreon to get there. Thank you, everybody, for your support. You're fantastic, and we love you all.
Yeah.
Moving back. Conspiracy 2. Conspiracy 2, ladies and gentlemen, is here. We're taking the crown. There were a lot of cool spoilers. Wizards, you know what? I got to hand it to them. They gave some constraint. You know what constraint they didn't do? They did not do constraint on Modern Masters 2. They did not do that. They busted out the Mana Vault, or the Mana Crypt, rather, as soon as the set showed up. They front-loaded all the sweet spoilers, and by the time the last Mythic showed up, it was like, whatever, But Wizards, not only did they bury the lead, they buried the entire spoiler. They didn't even give anybody show and tell. Show and tell shows up in a random picture. People think it's fake or whatever, and all of a sudden it's here. And there's a foil version, and it's not the Judge promo. It's got the new artwork. It's going to be amazing. It's going to bring all those prices down. Then all of a sudden, people show up, and there's Berserk. Berserk is in the set. That's unbelievable. Like, there was a bunch of stuff that was just kind of like hidden, just down deep. Birds of Paradise just kind of just showed up, and that's amazing. And so we have all of these awesome reprints. We've got a card in Magic the Gathering called Garbage Fire.
Yes.
Yes. Yes,
Absolutely.
it's what I always wanted. It's like my dreams are coming true over here. Yeah. Dumpster Fire, but a little bit better, but that's okay.
People have described this set as being the best set of the year. Over Eldritch Moon, over Shadows over Innistrad, best set. And the year's not even done yet. We haven't even seen Kaladesh.
This set
and
is
people
unreal.
have declared this is the best set.
This set is pretty fantastic. Now, we have not seen Kaladesh, and Kaladesh is coming, and I got a thing I get to show you guys next week, because we announced the stuff for Cool Stuff Games on Friday, and oh man, you're going to love it. All right, so anyway, so Conspiracy 2, Garbage Fire, Stunt Double. Stunt Double is Flash Clone.
I love Stunt Double.
It's a, clone is a blue and 3 generic mana for a, clone that you pick a thing and it becomes that creature. Well, this has Flash. Same cost, everything. Flash. Boom.
Absolutely.
Stunt Double.
Yeah,
So
I'm
Wizard,
so glad that's not in the. I'm so glad that's not in standard. They can't Coco into that, can they?
No, it's 4 mana.
No.
Four
Okay,
mana.
just making sure. I was like, I don't want to see people Cocoing in the clones. That's too much.
Yeah, if they leave 4 mana up, it could either be Collected Company or Stunt Double.
Attack of the
Probably
Coco
not. It's
Clones.
probably not going to be Stunt Double. Yeah, Attack of the Clones.
I'm gonna hold you responsible when that becomes an archetype that we all got to deal with, and be like, "Damn it, Ruben."
Coco Clones? I'm all about it. I'm ready. They can collect the company into a phantasmal image now as it is, so
I
it's
am
like
not cooking for Coco clones. I am not.
Wow. That was pretty good.
that's
I
not
like
bad.
that one. That's pretty solid. So we
There's
have
a lot of cool stuff in this that got spoiled this week from this set.
There really was, but one of the other big bomb drops, and I'll bring it up on the screen right now, is Kaya Ghost Assassin.
Yeah.
Kaya Ghost Assassin literally has a ghost rare version of herself, where her foil artwork is different than her non-foil artwork, and the set number on her non-foil is 75 out of 221, but on the foil is 222 out of 221.
Yeah, which is nice.
Which is fantastic. So they only do that to differentiate the two, so you can tell the different arts. There's nothing else different about it. It's not super secret rare or anything, but it shows up as often as she shows up as a foil mythic rare. When you think of how often does a foil mythic rare show up, that's how often this shows up. However, being a separate version, being only foil, probably going to be worth $1 million. Seems to be, if not somewhat playable in older formats, definitely fun enough to see an infinite amount of casual play. It is a super sweet card, and is this the first time? How long ago has it been since they did something like this, is what I'm trying to recall at this point. Because it's been a while. They did make some different language versions for the release. I think it was like the Apocalypse promos or something.
In a pack, it's like I can't think of any time that they've done anything like this since they secretly snuck in the counter or the tokens into Onslaught without telling people. You know how they snuck in the goblin tokens and those kind of things into packs every once in a while.
I wasn't actually playing, so I don't know.
And then the hidden treasures, which we can neither confirm nor deny was on purpose, in original Zendikar. Was the last time that something like this kind of happened. But yeah, nothing like, well, first of all, also our friends at Mythic Spoiler, if you move your mouse over the image of Kaya Ghost Assassin, when your mouse is over it, it becomes the foil, which is my favorite.
Sweet.
Well done there. But yeah, I can't think of a card-specific thing like this where they've changed the art or something about the card or buried the lead this much. Like, we led off this set by getting Kaya, and then they didn't tell us about the foil version so that the hype train could continue all the way through the set's release. I'm really impressed by that.
I'm really impressed by the restraint. Now, I don't think that they should do it every time, but I think in these scenarios, when you have a set that is older, you know what I mean, or a set that is full of really old reprints, like a Modern Masters, like a Conspiracy, being able to bury the lead in that way, I think really helps just keep that fire burning, because with Modern Masters 2, they threw out all the good stuff, right at the beginning, and then by the time it reached the end, it was like, and the last Mythic's Mindslaver, and everybody's like, and everyone was thinking it was something ridiculous, or it was, Karn or whatever. But either way, I think having a what do they call it? A super secret tech version of a Planeswalker.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's great.
Pretty awesome. Aaron, you gonna be getting one of these full Kayas? You're gonna be hunting those down.
I'm actually more interested in the reprints. I'm really in the market for the Inquisition reprint. I'm still trying to figure out what the hell's happening on that art. Serum Visions, I think, is fantastic. Birds of Paradise. I'm more interested in I kind of like the Sanctum Prelate, which I never thought that I would like, but I can see myself doing broken things with that card. Beast Within. Do you know how long I've looked for that version of Beast Within with the art like that? I definitely want to play a set of those. The Living End player in me really wants that, and I think it's a fun set. I don't normally draft. I'm very open about that fact, but my birthday is this coming weekend, and I believe that we're getting a box and drafting this. So we might be doing a birthday. Thank you. So we might be doing a birthday draft in Indianapolis this weekend.
I'm very excited for all of the #YasQueen tweets that come out of your multiplayer game of Conspiracy 2 Take the Crown.
You know, it's funny.
When various players become the monarch.
I mentioned that on the last episode that I was looking for a budget Marchesa list, and we had a couple of listeners send me tweets with Marchesa lists, so I'm fairly sure I have no excuse for why I can't build a Marchesa EDH deck once this set comes out.
I already started your Beyonce themed,
which was fantastic.
Marchesa. You get to run the card Formation.
And
which gives a creature banding until the end of the turn.
Wow.
It's such a good card.
That's fantastic, but I also had some listeners who sent me some lists too. So I can get your list anytime, but listener lists, big deal.
Your list ain't nothing. Your list ain't crap. Don't nobody care about you little listies up I heard. So we're going to move on now to another exciting card in Conspiracy 2. Now, one of the things I think they were very cognizant of is that Conspiracy is only legal for Legacy and Vintage and casual play. That is it. They do not add cards to standards. Conspiracy does not add cards to standard. That is in all caps at the top of the Magic subreddit because people are not really sure. It does not add cards to standard.
It's a modern card frame, so it's difficult.
But it does add cards to Legacy and the ability and Vintage, and the ability to have the Monarch means that you draw an extra card at the end of your turn. That's an incredibly powerful ability when in those older formats. And so I think you see a threshold of 4 mana. 4 mana is what it takes to become the Monarch in whatever fashion you need to make it happen. So I want to bring up here Throne of the High City. So Ruben, tell us a little bit about Throne of the High City and what you think its potential might be.
Right. So drawing a card every turn, particularly at the end of your turn, because if you can play a 4-mana 1/3 and become the Monarch, you immediately draw a card. Having the ability to become the Monarch at instant speed is even more of a boon, and having it on a land is a huge deal because you don't have to change your deck building constraints. Basically, any land that was doing something colorless before, you can replace with a copy of Throne of the High City. I think that Throne of the High City very, very likely will see play in both Legacy and Vintage as a 1-of or possibly a 2-of, particularly in Eldrazi decks that have access to things like City of Traders, Ancient Tomb, and need to have, they have very powerful turns 2, 3, 4, but need some follow-up to that. That's why you see sometimes people playing things like, in addition to other copies of Eye of Ugin, to be able to search things up later in the game, they play the XX for X, that I'm forgetting the name of off the top of my head. But, things to do with their mana later in the game. And Throne of the High City is a huge boon to those kind of decks where, you run out of Thought-Knot Seer, you run out of Reality Smasher, and then your opponent plays a Terminus or something. And then it's possible to run out of gas in those decks. Throne of the High City is a really good mana sink to be able to start gaining that card advantage back. Decks that are in Legacy and Vintage tend to not use the red zone as often as decks in Standard and Modern. You're not getting dealt combat damage nearly as often, and you're very rarely going to be fighting over who becomes the Monarch, I would think. And so decks like lands come to mind, Eldrazi, particularly because this is a colorless land that can help you cast your matter reshapers and whatnot. Sure. And even something like Miracles, getting the ability to end of turn, become the Monarch, and then start getting actual card advantage in Legacy. Usually it's mostly just card selection in Legacy, so card advantage is at a premium. So I think that Throne of the High City is a big deal.
I can think of a really strange fringe deck that might benefit from this. Enchantress. They say that if you're dealt combat damage, when you're using cards like Solitary Confinement and Elephant Grass, you're not getting combat damage. So if you're able to, make a bunch of mana with, say, your Wild Growth or your Sarah Sanctum, again, I don't think you'd want more than one of this, but, being able to draw all the cards, when you're constantly drawing cards that feed Solitary Confinement, that feeds, you might be drawing enchantments that can fuel your Argothian Enchantress, and you can keep the engine going. Having something like this where you're going to be the Monarch and you get to draw that extra card, I mean, that's another weird legacy deck that is pretty sure it won't be taking any combat damage, and you could basically stay the Monarch.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, Throne of the High City is basically the new, this is the closest thing we've come to Library of Alexandria since Library of Alexandria was printed.
Jesus.
Now, it's not even close to Library. Listen, it's not even close to Library. I get that.
Wow.
But this is the closest you're going to get in a modern card set. I understand that that's quite the claim, and it's going to take a while to get there. But this is, in the right deck, under the right circumstances, is a game-ending land, which is very, very rare.
I want to explain for the folks at home, or those who might be listening, who might not know exactly what all these cards do. Throne of the High City is a rare land. It taps to add a colorless mana. 4 generic, tap, sacrifice it, you become the Monarch. The Monarch says, at the beginning, your end step, remember that, at the beginning, your end step.
Classic beginning, your end steps.
That's right. You draw a card. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, its controller becomes the Monarch. And you live in a world where not a lot of creatures kind of run around. And when you have something, I think Enchantress is actually amazing. Now that you've kind of mentioned it to me, I think it's incredibly exciting. The foils for this card are probably going to be infinite dollars. I would love to see the Monarch actually happen in older formats. I think that would be absolutely amazing.
I think that the ability to do it at instant speed and it being on a card that won't impact how your deck is built nearly as much as putting it on a creature is going to be a huge boon.
Right. The fact that it's just a land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aaron?
No, I completely agree. I think, like I said, my first thing was Enchantress, and then in a perfect world, I would love to find a way for Dredge will never see 4 mana, but when I think about being able to draw every turn, that's an additional Dredge, and so in a fantastical reality, I would love this, but it will never happen. But I could certainly see playing Enchantress, because like I said, there's no way they're going to get through your defenses.
That is super exciting in my opinion. So there was an article to kind of, continue on here. There was an article on MTG Goldfish because, as usual, Saffron Olive has been killing it. And where he writes, conspiracy can be our salvation if we let it. He kind of talks about 4 different points, and I wanted to kind of get our opinions and thoughts on these points. The first one is Inquisition of Kozilek shouldn't be rare, and other rarity upshifts. To which I think that, again, when you look at what a card's supposed to be is a little silly, and I wish it wasn't so sort of expected that when an uncommon gets reprinted that it's uncommon again, even when it's the 4th most played card in Modern, so and it's worth like $15 or whack or whatever it is, I think you kind of have to temper yourself with WotC's a business. They want to sell cards. They don't want to destroy the value of the cards that people already have. They can't say that, but you can see it in their behavior. And so I think that to me is a little silly. And anytime these rarity upshifts, downshifts thing happen, and I see somebody complaining about it, I mean, it just seems like the silliest thing ever.
Yeah, I think that I don't know. I think that you wanted me to just shut up and be thankful about things, right? Last week,
I'd prefer it.
It's like the wrinkly $100 bills we shouldn't complain about so much. I'm just happy we got a reprint, man. I'm just glad that we got Berserk and Show and Tell, and they put Serum Visions in a set, even though it's uncommon.
But the art, though, I mean, I don't like the Inquisition art. Like
that we can complain about. That's
and it's just not the right version of Dredge, man.
It's
not cool.
Shriekhorn, Evan. It's not like I have no dignity. Shriekhorn,
Aaron.
No dignity.
Dredge is good in Standard now. You literally can't talk to me.
No dignity, no doubt.
Stop complaining. You have a Dredge deck in Standard.
So, until Jace rotates, and then we don't.
Yes.
Inquisition of Kozilek also had the Conspiracy 2 has a flavor fail, whatever. And one last point on that whole, reprinting, upshift, downgrading, rarity, whatever thing. There's also a point of thinking about when they put Show and Tell and they put Berserk in a set that goes to what they describe, that goes to big box stores. That goes to what they describe as the mass market. Walmart is selling packs that have Show and Tell in them. Mm-hmm. That's a big deal. You know why? Because Walmart did not sell packs of Modern Masters 2.
Really? I didn't know that.
Correct. It doesn't go to that. At least I don't think so. At least someone.
Why is that?
Well, because it was supposed to be a special set, and they have a low print run, and they're able to give it to the WPN stores, and it's sort of a one of those things that the stores get to do, and blah blah blah. And so that's an important distinction. And again, feel free, good commenters of our show, who may correct me because I want to be corrected if I'm wrong on that. Anyway, the point is, it is going to be in big box stores. That much I'm 100% on. It is going to have even blister packs of 3 packs, so you can just get it and draft.
I like that.
Which is really cool. But again, when you're putting cards like Berserk and Show and Tell into this set, then it really brings down the prices. So all these people who complain about the price of Legacy and it's so hard to get in older formats, they should be absolutely cheering that Conspiracy 2 is doing what it's doing. As for the flavor fails,
look, man. From every cloud, a little rain must fall.
Well,
not everything is perfect.
Well,
not everything is sunshine and rainbows.
So here's the thing with the flavor, though. It's not necessarily a flavor fail. I consider it a flavor distraction. We talked earlier in the pre-show, which if you are a Patreon subscriber, you'll get to listen to. But we talked about disconnects. And so when the set first came out, they really dangled Kaya in front of us. They really wanted us to see Kaya. They really wanted us to know that Brago was dead. They wanted us to know that Marchesa was taking over. They were setting up this rivalry between Marchesa and Adriana, I think her name is. They really wanted us to get involved with Fiora. That's the name of the plane, right? Fiora?
I don't recall.
Paliano, is that what we're talking about?
It was one of those. But the bottom line is they wanted us to really care about that storyline. But then
clearly it didn't work for me.
But then they start dangling in, we start seeing Show and Tell, we start seeing Eldrazi, we start seeing the Kozilek head thing on the Inquisition of Kozilek. It wasn't necessarily that the flavor was a fail, it's that they pulled us away from the main storyline, where it's like, look at Marchesa, oh, but there's an Eldrazi, and it's like, whoa, okay, so are we supposed to care about her? Are we supposed to care about this? And I just felt like it detracted from the storyline that they were really trying to get us to care about. Not necessarily that they were being shoehorned into a set or that it didn't fit. It just felt like we were being pulled in different directions, where it's like, here's this storyline we really want you to see, we really want you to care about, but then here are all these Easter eggs and these other things are going to take you away from that. It just seemed very inconsistent in that regard. I wouldn't say fail, but it was just a distraction.
Sure, and thanks to our good commenters, Fiora is the plane,
Fiora, thank you.
Paliano is the city.
Okay.
So that's cool. So, and lastly, Wizards is just doing it for the money. Wizards is a business. Of course they're doing it for the money. They're doing everything for the money. It's not a bad thing that they're doing a thing for money. They do. And, you got to do what you got to do there. But Wizards exist as a business. So, I mean, it's the silliest of arguments, I'm telling you. Let's move on to gathering the townsfolk. And so we have all these really cool little stories this week. I don't think we have a whole lot of really anything, and I think Conspiracy 2 is kind of the biggest part of it. But the first thing I wanted to touch on was there was a Blogatog post. Blogatog is the Tumblr blog that is written by Mark Rosewater. It's at markrosewater.tumblr.com. And someone mentioned, hey, Conspiracy 2 looks unreal, and there's all these reprint sets, and I'm just baffled at how R&D has managed to not reprint Damnation. Basically, when everybody wants Damnation to be reprinted, oh my God, have you seen the price of that stupid card? And so, he kind of has an analogy of Poison, because he definitely wanted Poison back in Magic, but he didn't start every set design with can Poison go here. Instead, he waited for a point where it made sense, and then there it is. And I'm sure, and what he kind of says is, and this is my favorite, due to factors that he can't expand on, which I understand, as a business, they can't really talk about the secondary market. Damnation's a tricky card to include in most sets. I mean, you're going to drop a ridiculous money bomb in whatever you got. And honestly, I mean, in terms of just like strategy, that is a card that you put in a bad set. I'm not trying to say much. I'm not trying to say that Wizards doing that. I'm trying to say that if your set is lacking and you wanted to put some grease, in the engine, whatever, in the wheels of grease and the gasoline to boom boom. You want to put some nos in that thing? You know.
Speaking of card designs, you guys should check out Evan's new game.
That's right. Checked out a new game. I'm currently in playtesting, but regardless, so
I was just noting the car reference.
I know, right? Damnation itself is just a thing that you can drop a bomb in, you know, just like any other monster reprint.
Right.
And so, you know, Damnation's a thing. It's really interesting, but I agree. You know, I certainly don't think that Wizards is like, can we put Damnation in here as the first beginning of any development conversation or designer conversation? But I would say, like, it's really getting obvious that Damnation has not been reprinted and this needs to be fixed.
Well, I think it's also difficult. I'm sorry.
Aaron, go.
I was just going to say, I think what also makes it difficult is that I think from a standard standpoint, Wizards has been very clear about the fact that we're not getting Supreme Verdict back, basically. We have not really had a good 4-mana board wipe since Supreme Verdict. We've had Languish, but Languish has that big -4/-4, doesn't kill Sylvan Advocates that have the 6 lands thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're just not going to see a good 4-mana board wipe anytime soon. And I think that complicates the Damnation issue, is that it is an amazing 4-mana board wipe. And so if it's not going to be in standard, then it means it has to be in some sort of other set, like a Conspiracy or like an Eternal Masters, but those only come along so often, and so that really complicates things. And I understand where he's coming from.
We've talked about a couple times on this show that specifically Aaron doesn't like the way that Control is going, and now Control is really black-white, and it has been for a little while now. And you know, when you have quote-unquote subpar sweepers like Mutilate, like Languish, and they're still the best control deck, if you reprint Damnation, there's no recourse. There's no option beyond it. So it's going to make a very awkward standard format for a long time. So what it does to the secondary market for a card that people want copies of it pales in comparison to what you're going to be doing to standard if you put a card that's as powerful as Damnation into it. Black Wrath of God effects need to be powered down slightly. You need to have something else because they have they're so powerful at the targeted disruption in that color already. So you don't want to have a format that's turn 1 Doomblade, turn 2 Hero's Downfall, turn 3 Damnation.
Even Duress. We've got Duress in the format now, and it's like being able to pluck a negate out of the hand, or being able to bait a negate so that you can get your Damnation off. That's scary. Look what we went through with Thoughtseize. Everybody was so happy Thoughtseize came out, and then it was Thoughtseize followed by Pack Rat, and then everybody was in agony. And so, having a cheap discard spell to protect your board wipe is usually bad news. And, we're losing Duress come rotation next month, and we may very well get it back. It's kind of like negate. We always see it. But, you brought up a really good point, Ruben, of black being the color of disruption, and it's not like white where you can just sort of throw an end hostilities at someone and just kind of throw it out there. You can actually protect your board wipe almost with black, and that's really scary.
Nice. And so just real quick blast from the past, which we'll have another one here in a little bit. The last time Damnation was in standard, there was a mono black Corlash deck. Remember Corlash?
Oh, there was.
Remember Corlash? Corlash was a rare in Future Sight. It's 2 black, 2 generic mana. It's a legendary zombie warrior. It's star. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of swamps you control, and for a black and a generic mana, you can regenerate him. And you can discard another card named Corlash to search your library for up to 2 swamps and put them into play tapped and all that good stuff. The whole thing about the story, the thing that Damnation reminds me of, is I played the Corlash deck at regionals, and I played Mono White Control. Mono White Control had Gauntlet of Power. It had Martyr of Sands. It had Sacred Mesa. Listen to me. The guy persecuted me for 7 cards. He made me discard 7 cards, and I still won that game. I crushed him. It wasn't close. Mono Black could not beat Mono White. Never in a million years in that format.
Did you demand a refund like Martin Juza?
Oh, dear. Oh, no. Oh, my.
Swear to God. 7 cards, ladies and gentlemen. He made me discard. Still won that game. Absolutely.
The best part of that story is neither of those decks were remotely playable.
Speaking of damnation, I have the super rare damnation playmat that's almost made out of like carpet material. Good luck trying to find that, because I've got one, and it's really difficult to play on. Like if you play with any kind of sleeves, good luck. But
I'll put it on beautiful. My floor.
Ruben,
like I did last week with all.
You're not stepping on my damnation playmat.
You said it's carpet material.
It doesn't mean I want you playing in it.
All right, fair.
Nice. So, anyway, moving on. There was a Tumblr post by Bad at Commander.tumblr.com, and I saw this show up this week. I thought it was interesting. And the question was, how much do fetches thin your deck? A lot of people say, like, man, I'm just fetching because, I got to fetch it end of turn, because if I don't do it, I'm going to miss out on that sweet draw, and I'm going to draw a land. And a lot of times there's this kind of psychological thing where if you didn't crack your fetch and you drew a land, if you had just cracked your fetch, you wouldn't have drawn that land. And so this is the literal mathematical equation as to whether or not that's a truism. Like, should you do that? Is deck thinning via fetch lands actually real? And so he built a kind of a test scenario, where he was able to simulate 10,000 games. And he basically said that he did it with a deck that had 24 fetchable lands, 36 other spells, and no fetches, and another deck with 10 fetches, 14 fetchable lands, and 36 other spells. And he ran them side by side. Basically, if you have no fetches versus you have 10 fetches and those 14 fetchable lands. And basically, it provides no additional value. It doesn't provide any significant, like, actual measurable value until turn 20. 20. I want you to go back in your mind and think about how many games of Magic the Gathering you had that went to 20.
I can't remember the last time I've had a game go that long.
And if you go to 20 turns, you have the likelihood of drawing one more spell than a land.
Yeah.
That's it.
If it's like a 12-12 split or a 0-24 split, you'll get one additional spell.
So the point of the article, the moral of the story is that you should really be using fetch lands for what they're doing for your deck, for color fixing, for triggering landfall, for doing whatever it is you need the fetch lands to do. But this BS where, like, I'm running mono red and I'm running these 8 fetches or 12 fetches in it because it thins my deck.
No. You're running mono red because you have the
because you have Searing Blaze.
Searing Blaze.
Yeah, you have Searing Blaze. That's why you have that. So just remember why you're doing things, and if anyone ever says to you, "I'm fetching because it thins my deck and lets me draw another spell," feel free to let them know that mathematically they are 100% wrong.
They're probably the same people who pile shuffle.
Wow.
Those people, just straight evil, just straight, toxic. So,
jeez.
I'm just
wow.
Kidding.
This went on this got dark quick. We're on an Inquisition of pile shufflers now.
Man.
Well, to be fair, watching somebody pile shuffle is basically like the headbutt in the Inquisition of Kozilek.
It's rough because it's so inefficient.
Because I'm that person.
It's okay.
You pile shuffle?
Every once in a while, I catch myself.
I can't.
I catch myself doing it.
It's like biting my fingernails. I can't stop. I catch myself in the middle of pile shuffling and ask myself, "What am I doing with my life?"
I know what'll get you to stop biting your nails.
Or pile shuffling?
No, but I know what can get you to stop biting your nails.
What's that?
Think about it. If you think about it, you're literally swallowing parts of yourself.
Oh, I don't eat them.
Okay, so
what are you, a monster?
No.
What kind of a human? Well, first of all, actually, that's less wasteful because you get that keratin back.
Monster.
But I just feel like I'm so fascinated by my nails because they're like they used to be on my. They were very recently a living part of my body, and now they're gone.
See, I used to be a really bad nail biter.
It's a very existential moment for me, Aaron.
I used to be a really bad nail biter, and I remember that sick thrill when, like, you'd go a couple days and you wouldn't see any growth, and then you'd see a little bit, and that sick enjoyment of like, and like you can't wait, and it's bad. I haven't bitten my nails for like 6 years, and I actually can't look at people who do because it creeps me out. Like, did I look like that? Did I look that crazy when I did it? It's bad.
Did I look that crazy?
They're like chipmunks. They just go at it.
I don't think that you've convinced me to stop biting my nails, but you might have convinced me to start eating them. No, I'm kidding.
No.
I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that.
High in fiber. High in fiber.
Keratin, man. You need that to see, right? That's the... Is that how that works?
I know somebody who will rip their nails off. They won't bite them. They will just kind of like get like a little bit, and then they'll just tear the rest of it off. And so their nails look like they've just chewed them to bits. When in actuality, they've just ripped the nail off every time it starts to grow. I'm saying.
I knew a guy who picked his knuckles. Like he had big calluses on his knuckles.
What's there to pick?
Right? And I don't know what the deal was.
Maybe
to bring it back to Magic, though, I have become very hyper aware of my opponent's nails, though. Like if I'm ever watching a feature match and like you get somebody with like the Coke nail and like they point to something on the board, it just skeeves me out. I'm just like, oh. So and when I go to big tournaments, I always make sure that my nails look nice because I don't want to have a feature match and have like the gangly talons. Like this is your ad nauseum.
The gangly talons.
No,
that's the name of my punk band.
That's the name of a card in Conspiracy 3, Give the Crown Back. By the way, we didn't have discuss fingernail etiquette in our schedule for this week's
We
show.
really didn't. It's not in the notes. You're not going to find it in the show notes.
But if
I
you're
don't have
going
an
to a
image
major
ready.
tournament, trim your nails. I'm
It's
just
the kind of
saying.
conversation that's usually in the Patreon pre-show.
Wow.
We accidentally...
Fantastic.
And you're welcome.
Yeah,
This is what we do. This is the services we provide. And I was also noting that we were kind of
What
burning
is
through
the
topics.
spinning your deck isn't a thing.
We were burning through topics. We needed to hold back. We needed to
Oh,
put
and
in-
also, if you're a nail biter, don't bite your nails and then cut my deck. I can't. No.
Oh. You think
I
you ain't
caught
spreading?
somebody
You
doing-
think you ain't spreading germ cultures literally all day at a Magic tournament?
I mean,
Just
so like
all day,
if you go like this
hands
and then
and
cut,
face.
no.
all day, just all. They could have went to the bathroom 2 seconds before they sat down. All up in your business,
Yeah.
looking
If
at
you're
your
playing-
cards, touching your
playing day
graveyard.
I
one-
do not want to
You're playing day
imagine
one.
your hands on your Zern orbs before you cut my deck. I just
You're playing-
don't.
Wow.
If you're playing day one of a GP or an SCG Open, you're shaking hands with like 8-9 people.
You're assuming I even shake hands with my opponent.
Wow.
You might not. That's fine. Give them like the bottom, like the South Pole handshake with the elbow.
All right, so let's move on. To
They have to, so they don't get frozen
Ravings.
together. You got to
Give a
elbow.
fist
Oh, no,
bump.
no. There's one more bit in Guy of the Townsfolk. Another random bit that I just thought was cute and funny, and I want to talk about it.
Speaking of bottoms,
Smuggler Captain. Smuggler Captain. I could say something or not. Smuggler Captain is the first new card with the pirate subtype in 17 years. That's and 17 years it has taken Wizards of the Coast, Magic the Gallery to return since like Ramirez de Petrio or de Petro.
No, they had the
Pietro.
Rishadons. They had the
Pietro.
Rishadon cut purse.
There you
They
go.
had some guys.
Okay, here we
They
go.
had the airship. You know,
Yeah.
Ramirez de Pietro was the Pirates of Penzance. You know, the pirate captain who people remember the most. He can be the general of your EDH deck.
Sure.
But yeah, the first, that was a surprising statistic.
Yeah, it was really. I mean, since Mercadian Masks. Now, Mercadian Masks sucked. Like, no joke, it sucked bad. Like, no one's sugarcoating Mercadian Masks. It's a terrible set. It was a terrible environment.
But it had pirates.
But it had pirates. It's just like Kamigawa. Everyone hates on Kamigawa, but you know what Kamigawa's got? Tell them. Ninjas. It's got ninjas.
Sorry,
ninjas came to
Ninjas
Magic
was
the
the right
Gathering
answer.
because of
Yeah,
Kamigawa. So you have pirates and you have ninjas. You could have pirates versus ninjas in Magic thanks to those sets. Okay, now we have a new pirate. Now, just saying, I'm ready for Pirate World. I'm ready for the pirate block. Let's do this. I want to be on the high seas. I want to have a ship. I want to make something happen. I want to have some sort of people putting people in different parts of it or something, or some weird equipment.
We already have the keyword parlay in Magic. I think it's a multiplayer ability, but it was
in the first conspiracy.
It was in
Wasn't
the first conspiracy, so you can parlay with your opponent's, captain or whatever. We can introduce like keyword smuggle something.
Nice.
Who
Nice.
knows? We can give artifacts that have the booty subtype.
Wow.
Maybe I don't know.
I'm here.
There's
for
lots of
looting the
ways to
booty.
do it.
Aaron is on board with the booty subtype.
Lots
I'm
of
here.
looting. Lots of looting.
Right.
Yeah.
There you
Absolutely.
go. Looting sweet. So
I'm
it's
all for it.
just funny that Wizards did not need to put the pirate subtype on there. It's been 17 years. Could have went to 18. Could have went to 19. No one would have noticed. But here we are. And they're ready to bring pirates back to Magic. All I'm saying is, first of all, for God's sake, we need more ninjas in Magic. Now, they did give us some in, I think, some of the plane shift sets and stuff, which is good.
Oni Blade Shinobi.
I'm ready. I am ready for the Pirates versus Ninjas block. My body is ready. It needs this.
So fun fact about Kamigawa, I made a little rogue in World of Warcraft, and I named her Oyobi, which is a character from Kamigawa.
Yeah.
So I needed an O names. All my characters have O names, and so I was going through Gather, and I was like, Oyobi, and it's a Pandaren, so it makes sense.
Nice.
You're welcome.
Well, there you go. So anyway, they made pirates and magic, pirates and ninjas. God bless us, everyone. Desperate Ravings. Desperate Ravings is next. Where we're going to talk about. Look, man, there's a lot of hate. I'll just straight up say a lot of hate and ridicule thrown the way of Magic Online. Magic Online gets crapped on all the time,
and we throw much of it at it.
We have been just we've been just as responsible and guilty, and don't even play, Aaron. Don't even play.
Magic Online is great for people who are learning Dredge. You get to learn all your triggers. It does all that for you. It is a fantastic set of training wheels for.
Well, you could tell that to Mr. Martin Yuza, who earlier this week had lost one of his league. Well, one of his league matches had experienced the sideboard bug, which is when you sideboard, but it doesn't sideboard. First of all, Wizards, for God's sake, really. This has been going on for like years. This is
okay, but how badly did that affect his turnout?
But it turns out he won that match anyway. He won his league, and then he filed for reimbursement. Why? Because he was not getting the testing that he had signed up for, that he had paid for.
Oh, girl.
So, yeah, I mean, but, and they denied him this reimbursement because he won the league. And it's like, dude, you kind of got everything. And this couldn't have even affected you poorly. And he's like, well, it affected me poorly in that I didn't get true testing. And that was kind of awkward, seeing some pros kind of argue about, like, look, first of all, this is like the 0th world problem, as Ruben described. Like, no one has this problem except
I won my draft, but I didn't get the perfect experience. The Dredge deck is the best deck in the format, but it's not the Dredge deck I like.
Nah.
Like, my white gloves are sullied. I need new white gloves.
Right, they are sullied. So sullied. Yeah. Anyway, so moving on from silly stuff like that, Magic Online has actually been coming out with some really awesome releases, some really awesome announcements. And I got to hand it to them. Look, man, it was really bad for a couple years. I mean, it was just one hit after another, after an uppercut, after a Kibbler, after a thing, and then there was the premiere events, and it was a long period of time in which, like, I'm making videos holding Brad in my arms and stuff. It's like, things were rough. But we're getting to the point. I have friends
that still reference that video for entirely the wrong reasons, but they loved that video.
Nice. Well, let me tell you, some of those emotions, man, when it was over, we had to get some Kleenex.
Like, you unlocked a whole new demographic with that video. I don't think you understand.
I probably don't, and that's okay. But either way, I gotta bring up first. Now, Wizards, God, man, Wizards is after my own heart. Now, if you don't know, I'm a big fan of cubes. I started a site, cubedrafting.com, many years ago. I gave that site away as I couldn't keep it up. I began building cubes. I made cube content. I make I would argue some of the first cube content, certainly video-wise, where me and my friends talk about building stuff. This is like back in Lorwyn days. This is 10 years ago. And so cubes, all about it. And there's always been this holy grail of Magic Online. If you could just build your own cube, if you could just host your own cube and let everybody play it, what a wonderful world it would be. Well, my God, Wizards is actually giving it to us. Now, they're giving it to you in a very measured way. Why? Because first of all, this is the first time they're ever doing anything like this.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the fact that they're kind of going like, slow and steady. They're saying, look, there is a You Make the Cube contest where people want to make cubes. You're so good at cube design, blah, blah, blah. Well, let's see it, because they want to see creative cubes that are fun, that are actually feasible. Like, you can't do stuff like, you got to make packs this way, or the packs are 20 cards, or the packs are 8 cards, or silly stuff like that. It has to have replayability, and it has to be 540 cards. That's actually a very interesting limit, by the way. A lot of cubes I know are 720, and some are just like numbers kind of in between, or even numbers over that. But it's really interesting, and they have all these rules and stuff for the contest and whatnot. But the point is you could build your own cube and then have others around the world play it. And when we hear things like, you know, a combo cube or a counters cube or an elf cube or a tribal cube or whatever it is, you know, for those things not just to be concepts but actually could be something that you submit to Wizard, they choose it, and then we're drafting it. That's amazing.
Yeah, I think that this gives an opportunity to have some really unique things happen. You know, a lot of people have some experience with things like Pauper Cube or Peasant Cube, but certainly there are things like the Pro Tour Cube, which Eric Klug is a big proponent of, which are cards that have appeared in Pro Tour winning decks, which is a super fascinating cube.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of the Mono Blue Cube that John Johnson built a couple years ago, because you get the Merfolk deck and the combo deck and the control deck, and you can do all the things with blue, obviously. Mono Green Cube doesn't work out quite as well.
It doesn't. It really doesn't.
Same with Mono Red Cube, but Mono Blue Cube, it actually kind of works out. And then my personal favorite cube is something created by Peter Johnson and some of the folks in the Cincinnati area, which is Counters Matters Cube, which I haven't played for 5 years, so I can't imagine what new stuff is in it. But basically anything that involved proliferate or moving charge counters around or getting up to 10 counters on your like chance encounter enchantment and you know moving and Scar Scale Ritual and things like that. That was a super fun cube for me. But yeah, this gives the opportunity for creative, you know, it's an artistic endeavor now. People can send in their, you know, painting with the 16,000 colors of the 16,000 Magic cards that have been printed in Magic history. Right. Now you put those colors together in a way that you've never been able to or encouraged to in the past. For all the world to see. So I'm really interested to see what people come up with for these cubes.
Yeah, and so Aaron, if you were to build a cube, is it Dredge Cube time? Is that what time it is?
I do have other interests, you know.
Oh, now we have other interests.
Graveyard Cube sounds great.
So you mentioned Eric Klug, though, and Eric Klug, I don't know if he still has it, but I remember 2 years ago at Gen Con, he had a Humans versus Zombies cube.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet.
And that was fantastic. So you mentioned that. I would love to play that. You know, I mentioned earlier in the show I'm not really a big drafter, but I will absolutely draft a cube. Like, I won't draft, like, regular packs. Like, I won't draft Eldritch Moon, I won't draft Shadows or whatever. But if I'm at an event and somebody has a cube, I will 100% draft it with them. That is really the only drafting I enjoy doing. My friend Hallie has a really nice cube. I was with a friend in Minneapolis who had a modal cube, where everything in his cube had either kicker, multi-kicker, or had like a cryptic command type effect where you could choose multiple things to do. And I thought that was a lot of fun too. You know, I support, you know, any new format or any other way that you can play the game. I think is fantastic. You know, obviously EDH has a following. People have certainly tried to make tiny leaders happen. You know, I'm all for it. And I'm also for the prizes are really sweet as well. I believe you get 4 copies of Kaladesh.
Right. You get a full play set of Kaladesh.
Wow.
And you can win an additional, I think, 4 foil.
Whoa.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to check that again.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Finalist and then grand prize winner. That's different things. I'm sorry.
Gotcha.
But either way, the prizes are sweet. And like you said, it's an opportunity for people who, you know, everybody thinks they can do something better. And Lord knows when the Wizards cubes come out, it's always, oh, I would have kept this card in, or I would have done this. And it's a nice way to be like, okay, show me what you got. And people who can either back that up, or people who are like, I was kidding. And it's like, right. So it's a really great way to see what people come up with.
Right. And I mean,
that I came up with the Cincinnati guys. The Cincinnati guys came up with it, and I started adding additions to it. Is the Fat Guy Bees cube, where every time a bee comes up, you have to pronounce it like a fat guy bee, like a bitter blossom, like that. So, and any card that has double bees. Like Wild Blight, any double B card costs
Nice.
1 mana less.
Wow.
So Bitter Blossom is banned because it's broken. Right? And if you have double B's in your name, you get to go first. So Brian Brown to win always gets to go first.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
What happened?
I do too, because my name's Ruben Bressler. So
Nice.
I get that one also. Yeah, so that was a fun one as well.
What happens if you don't pronounce, like if you forget to pronounce it that way? Is there like a penalty or like?
Yeah, you're banned.
Oh, look, man, all I'm saying is all the haters, and this includes me, all the haters who were like, what was Randy Bueller putting vampires in the Legacy Cube that one time? Look, man, you think you can do better. Wizards is literally saying, let's
Ruben's
see
voice
it.
out of my head. So when you said Randy Bueller,
Beautiful.
Right. Bueller. I can't do it like you
Bueller.
can.
Randy Bueller. Oh, he doesn't get to go first because he only has one B. You need two Bs.
okay.
So either way, all I'm saying is, as much as people were calling him out, and we did the same. This is your chance to say, like, look, okay, I can build a cube, and this is what my cube looks like, and this is why I enjoy it, or whatever.
Okay, Ruben, can you say bridge from below?
Bridge from below.
No, you got to do it though.
Bridge
From below.
bridge from below.
Man,
One mana less on bridge from below isn't broken.
No.
But it's fun to listen to.
So we're going to pivot now into the other thing that Magic Online's doing really well, which is they just announced draft leagues. Now, this is it, ladies and gentlemen. This is the time in history. This is the time in Magic history for the first time, and I want somebody to correct me again if I am incorrect here, that Wizards has finally let you officially draft and then play your draft deck against people that were not in your pod. I am so happy about this. It is ridiculous. Every time it came up, it's taken years, but okay, because years ago I was complaining that, hello, do you not see Hearthstone? Do you not see how you can draft on Hearthstone and later finish your matches? I don't care if I'm in the same pod or not. I just don't care. I made a whole video about it. Point is, like, Wizards, we got here. We're here. I'm excited. And so I got to give them up. They made it happen. Yes, it took forever, but by God, we're in the Shining City. And we got draft leagues. And once you draft, you can take as long as you want to build your deck. And then you're going to play against people. When you're 1-1, you're absolutely going to play the same record. That's the difference between the sealed leagues. Let's see. Pairing for draft leagues will use a stricter pairing algorithm that only pairs you with an opponent who has exactly the same record as you do. So I think that's a brilliant kind of middle ground between, it can still be competitive in that, if you're 2-0, you're going to be playing a 2-0 player. But it's not like, oh, well, I read the draft and because I passed XYZ and such and such, I'm just, I'm reading the table and it's like, no, it's just not that high level, man. It's just, you drafted a deck, you hope it's good, you get to battle against others with the same record. High five. This is amazing. Way to go, Wizards.
See, this is why. Do you have the red zone set up? We could.
Are we red zoning this?
We might.
Are we red zoning?
I honestly just don't agree. Like
now we're not agreeing.
I want to. This wasn't even a thing we talked about in the pre-show.
Oh, it was only a link that was in the Google Doc all week.
So
it's
for
fine.
the listeners, for the people who are watching, we were initially. I'm going to give you some behind-the-scenes dirt right now. Ooh. So that Martin Yuza thing we were talking about, I had suggested that be a red zone, and it couldn't be because we all agreed, and we just thought we were all going to agree on this show on everything, and this is completely a surprise. So if you two want to go at it,
I agree on the Martin Yuza thing. Obviously, that's a
totally. But I love that red zone is just spontaneously happening.
I want to play against people who are in my pod.
If Ruben wants to be wrong, it's okay. It's okay, Ron. Go ahead.
No, why?
I never hold it against him.
What do you mean, why?
Oh, now we don't know why.
No, because I want to play against people in my pod because drafting is a skill format. This is why you don't want it to be on the Pro Tour. I figured it out. I cracked the code.
Oh, now we're code cracking. You know what? We're in the red zone right now. We're officially in the red zone.
Oh, hello.
We have the graphic?
Yes, the graphic's on.
Awesome. I'm so happy.
Deal with it.
It's unplanned, you guys. Completely unplanned.
Completely unplanned. In order for to draft within your own pod, as you would at any Grand Prix or any F&M or any Pro Tour, you now have to play an 8-man, just not even a league.
8-person.
Right? 8-person, apologies. An 8 Magic player event. Right. You can't enter a league event. You can't do it in any other fashion, right? Am I understanding that correctly?
All right. So, spoiler alert: nobody cares, and all the people.
Oh my God!
Nobody cares except you're this little sliver of players, man. I'm telling you, when you have to cut out 4 hours of your life to do this thing, it becomes something I can't. So many times. I would love to draft, but it's like 11 o'clock at night, and I can't stay up till 3 in the morning. If I could stay up and draft, build it and play around and go to sleep and not have lost any value doing that, which I have done multiple times with like losing value. I have drafted, I win round 1, it's late, I'm tired, I quit, I go to bed, and I have not, I can't win any other matches, so I'm out.
So then you can play somebody else in, like, if there's 7 people in your pod and you're 1-2, fine, go nuts, go play somebody else. But no one gets anything out of. Look, if your goal is to only play like casual 8-person draft Magic, that's fine. But Magic Online isn't that for a much higher percentage of the population. It's a testing ground for people who are trying to get practice for future events. It's a place where it's not like getting together with your friends and drafting a lot like an F&M or a local game store might be. This is a lot more competitive of a landscape, and so removing that at least a little bit of the skill element, you have to admit this is removing some of the skill element from drafting.
What I would argue is that not that it's removing skill, it is adding variance. That's the way I would describe it.
Oh, great! That's all I want from my games of Magic the Gathering is more variance.
Yeah, but look, you know what it's also doing is conforming to lifestyles that we have now. When we can't cut 4 hours out of our lives, when everything has to be like a video that explains it to you in 20 seconds, and everything has to be now, and we're working all the time, and no one has time for XYZ to be able to digest. I drafted in that hour. Now I got to go do something. I built my deck. I played around. Now I got to go do something.
I mean, that was the majority of my feed today that was happy about the change were people who have small children who can't commit to sitting down and doing the rounds in a row. I can feed the kid, and I can come back and do this, and that's a really good point, the lifestyle.
Yeah.
No, and you're right. And I wish that Magic, this is one way in which Magic can learn from Hearthstone with the arena style pairing, just pairing against other people. But if I'm in a draft pod and I'm like, ooh, I really don't want to play against something, then I can hate draft it. Or if I'm like, ooh, I'm in a really good spot at my table, no one else at my table is playing black, so I can, build my deck in such a way that I can use that information to my advantage. Now, I'm just going to be playing against someone else who I have no knowledge of any of the cards in their deck. Like, if I can read a draft, which, spoiler alert, I can sometimes read a draft. Like, I can tell what the person on my left is in. I can tell what the person on my right is in. If I play them in round 2 or round 3, then I can be like, oh, I passed them this card. I need to play around this card, right? You're removing a huge skill element from the game. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so here's what I'm
not totally against it. This is like a pink.
So I'm curious though. So you have no problem. So you're sort of against the idea of the pods being different, but how do you feel about the league thing where you're not playing people with the same record as you? Does that bother you as well? Because it's been like that where you're very rarely playing. Like if you're 4-0, you very likely are not going to play another 4-0. Like that's okay.
Right, that's a bigger problem, and I understand the frustration with that. Maybe the way it should be is that once you've 3-0'd, then you move to other drafters. I've been in drafts like that where you sort of have, like for example, the way that I earned an invite to the TCG Player 50K that was in Las Vegas when I lived in Las Vegas last year. It was a 64-man draft, and the top people at the, whoever won their pods, they didn't redraft in the top 8. They just played until there was one person left. So I kept my deck for the whole time. And so, now I'm just saying that now my only option is to play generic 8-4s, which if I'm bad at Magic, I don't really want to just be in an 8-4, right? Like if I don't know.
So
I don't know, man. I didn't plan my argument ahead because I didn't know
it's fine.
We disagree on this.
Well, I know, and it's so you can plan to be wrong. It's fine, but listen, draft leagues did replace 2 things. They replaced
planning on being wrong. But.
I know, right? But turns
out,
do
you ever?
6222 Swiss and pack per win Swiss draft leagues draft queues are leaving as a result of these leagues existing. And for what it's worth now, and I will say that some are are upset or at least unhappy that those leagues, that those queues are leaving. And what I would argue is that those who are playing 6-2-2-2 or pack per win Swiss drafts, like this is the exact thing they want. This is what they want. They want flexibility. They want the ability to say, like for 6-2-2-2, if I win my first round and I've got to go do something because life gets in the way, I'm not going to get screwed out of value. And that allows them to keep some of that value, and I think that's amazing. And I can't wait to be able to do this, if only just for convenience.
Okay.
So I think that's
fine.
cool.
I'm completely willing to be wrong on this one. Like I am wrong, and I get that, and you hate me. But I just feel like you're missing something when you do a draft and you don't get the benefit of knowing what you've passed.
You know what you're missing? A sixth of your day.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. And that's all I'm saying. And so,
I'm saying that you're cutting out some of the skill necessary for Magic, and what attracts me to Magic is how much skill is necessary to be good at it.
Fair enough. And I think when you're in that mindset, they did not get rid of single elimination queues. And I think that's 100% the right call. You need to have that separation. And there used to be, I don't know, wasn't there used to be like, I even think they called it like expert draft and like, casual draft or something. This is way back in the day. We're talking like
advanced.
Yeah. The advanced room or whatever.
Packs. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a time which they tried to do this kind of separation, but I think now it's a little bit more subtle. It's basically saying you have your league where you can have fun, and yes, there's a lot more variance, and you could see that as less skill. But if you want that pure, the pure 8 people, you read the table, you see the signals, you know what you're playing against, it's absolutely still there for you. So for that, I think it can still be applauded. But draft leagues I think are sweet, and it's something that I talked about for years.
That draft leagues are super sweet. I think that this is a really cool idea, and I'm glad that people are passionate about it in a positive way. Clearly, if people are coming out in favor of the draft leagues, this is something that people have been clamoring for a while. And the old fogies like me who want the everything to always remain exactly the same will come out of the woodwork and shake their fists and then go back into their basement.
And sometimes you win, and that's why we don't have New Coke anymore. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, apologize.
Rubes.
I can only apologize at
right.
this point.
Yeah. Well, at least they brought Crystal Pepsi back for a little bit. Oh. There's no Diet Crystal Pepsi, though, and that makes me sad.
No, there's not. That would be water.
Just because it doesn't have coloration. All right, anyway.
Or sugar.
So, Blast from the Past. We're going to really quickly touch
carbonated water
on a Blast from the Past. There was a really great Reddit thread. Now, we're going to link it in the show notes. Ruben, if you can link it in the chat.
Sure.
There was a user, Tiamat, Tiamat 22.
Evan, please.
On Reddit.
Please. That's the god of the chromatic dragons, Tiamat, if you would, please.
Wow, I'm just going to go ahead and turn in my nerd card and just get out of here.
In the gaming industry, you can't even pronounce it.
Aaron, I can barely hear you. Did something happen?
Yeah, Aaron, turn up your volume. Your volume's down.
Your volume went super low. I can barely hear you. Correct.
But yeah, Tiamat, the
Tiamat.
evil chromatic dragon. Get your names right. Yeah, that's right.
I don't know what happened there, and all of a sudden your audio got super low.
Again?
Yep.
Yeah, it's still low.
It's still low.
I don't know what's going on.
That's weird. So every card in Alpha, somebody went through, if every card in Alpha was reprinted today. Now, what they did was they put it in modern frames and modern, mana symbols and all the other artwork and stuff in terms of the graphic design. And they also went one step further in which they went and found all of the artwork that has been recommissioned. For example, Ancestral Recall has been recommissioned, and so has all the Namoxen, and even Time Walk and so on and so forth, and even Time Twister. And so when they were able to go find the updated pieces of artwork for stuff like Balance, for example, they were able to do so. And so in some of them, they just kind of made stuff up. Like for Brain Geyser, they found a picture with like brains flying in the sky or something. Clearly not ever commissioned by Wizards, but it's just a cool idea to see what that card could look like. And it has some, crazy like camouflage You seen that card? Camouflage.
I love Camouflage.
Oh.
Camouflage has the best line of text, the best line of rules text of any card in the history of Magic. Piles can be 0.
Piles can be empty. That's right.
Piles can be empty.
Is beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It so the card is just like 1,000,000 words. Like literally it's like 100 words on this card. It's absolutely ridiculous. So but it's great to kind of go back and look, to go back and look and see some new pieces of artwork that have been made. Go back and take a look at Cockatrice, and we have demonic hordes and stuff. There's just crazy cards, man. And when you go back, and it really makes you, I think, appreciate the fact that that Alpha is really as amazing as it was. I mean, sure, they got some costs wrong. Things weren't perfect, but there was so much right in Alpha. There was so much that was just the core and the essence of what makes Magic, and the really exciting stuff that you saw, and the cool cards and the great effects. And so it's a Tiamat 22.
There you go.
If they will forgive me.
I like how it also reminds you of where certain phrases come from. It's like, so fire breathing. We use that as a term to describe that kind of effect, even though it's not called fire breathing. Same goes with fog. It's the first that we saw fog in, and now we have things like holy day, ethereal day, darkness. We call them fog effects, and this is a nice sort of kind of remind the children, where these terms come from. It's like, why do we call these things? Well, kids, here's a fork effect, here's a fog effect, here's fire breathing, I love these sort of these reminiscing times.
Yeah, a lot of the old names of like, why are they called wraths? I mean, people remember. Yeah, exactly, stuff like that. I think that this is a really cool post, and the user Tiamat certainly did a good job of updating all of the art for the post as well. So this was a nice little thing to see and spend 10 minutes looking at, and sort of being reminded that they're, as simple and as elegant as Magic was at the beginning with cards like Elven Archer or Giant Growth, there was also cards like Snowblind, right, and Camouflage, and there were some really weird ones. There
were some good ones, and again, Camouflage is
boy, I love Camouflage.
just so good, tasty. That one has all the goodness in it, but regardless,
Piles can be 0 is just.
Piles can be 0.
One of my favorite games to play is to come up with the list of the best lines of rules text that are on Magic cards. The Land Continues to Burn, of course, being a prime example on Obsidian Fireheart. But Piles can be 0, and then Spitting Ooze from the new set from Conspiracy 2 to wrap this up in like a nice little bow has tokens don't have +1/+1 counters. Because it creates a new ooze. Right. So I think that it says something along the lines of it creates a copy of itself, and then there's the reminder text of tokens don't have +1/+1 counters and aren't monstrous.
Nice.
Which I think is quite good.
That is beautiful. So
spitting slime.
I will note that it does have Volcanic Island, which Alpha didn't have.
Okay.
Just saying.
Sure.
And I think it's COP Black was the other one. The Circle Protection Black was the other card that it didn't have. But regardless, amazing stuff. Super cool. And that kind of brings us around. We turn the corner to the finisher. So the finisher this week, it's been a great one for science. The Internet, which was launched by Sir Tim Berners-Lee on August 23rd, 1991, celebrated its 25th birthday this week by posting pictures of cats insulting strangers and sharing their favorite 7 movies featuring talking babies. Not to be outdone, researchers have confirmed that they have found a rocky planet quite similar to Earth a mere 4 light years away, and they have named it Proxima B. Now, I'm not a scientist, as it turns out.
Wow.
But that's going to be a tough 7 days to top. So what could science do over the next week to best this week's triumphs? Aaron?
Okay, am I sounding better now?
There, you sound good.
You're improved.
Right there.
Okay, I don't know what the deal is. I'm just getting that out there. So,
all right.
So the SETI project, which stands for the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, will announce next week that they've discovered intelligent life on Reddit, although I still have my doubts.
Wow. Well, see, now you're back to perfect volume, so we're good there.
Yeah, there we go.
So, Ruben?
Well, scientists at the University of Texas, El Paso will announce next Monday that they have discovered the coldest substance known to man, Aaron Campbell's heart.
See, it sizzles, but in the cold way.
They spent decades looking at her block list on Twitter.
14,000 strong.
That's right. And they were like, the Bob Ross thing? Every time, I can't.
Don't understand.
I can't. You think I can, but I can't. I can't. Now, researchers at the National Institute of Health will announce a breakthrough next Sunday of the miraculous healing properties of John Finkel's tears. But John Finkel doesn't cry, so...
Yeah, it's not really useful.
Man, yeah. There was some other stuff that John Finkel... There was a meme there for a while of this karate guy and how his tears could cure cancer, but he didn't cry. Then that moved into John Finkel. And John Finkel had a bunch of awesome things in Magic, you know what I mean? Like he'd never been mana screwed or whatever.
And then apparently the National Institute of Health got a hold of him.
And they did. And they weren't going to let him go because those tears, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have miraculous healing properties. So that ends another episode of Magic Mics. I want to thank everybody for joining us here to talk all things Magic. Aaron, thank you very much for hanging out with us.
Thank you for having me.
Ruben?
What's up?
It's an honor and a privilege, buddy.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I do what I can to get by.
You know, sometimes we hop in that red zone and you don't even see it coming.
That was fun. Also, sometimes we talk about fingernails for 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Well, sometimes you gotta dive deep because not every week can be the most newsy-filled week ever.
Sure.
But we are going to go into our final slide here. And that ends another episode of Magic Mics. We have a September 4th hangout for our Patreon subscribers that are $20 or more. On September 4th, that's Sunday at 10 o'clock Eastern, we will be hanging out with all of our Patreon subscribers at the $20 or plus level. That said, thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic with Aaron Campbell, Ruben Bressler, and myself. Thanks for watching. I hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmics. Visit our website at magicmicspodcast.com that exists thanks to our Patreon supporters. Or follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, do everything social that tells people that we exist. I'm going to get it out one of these days. You catch us online at twitch.tv/magicmics, on Twitter at magicmicscast, on Reddit at reddit.com/r/magicmics, and on Facebook at facebook.com/magicmics. Talk to us privately at magicmicspodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at magicmicspodcast.libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes, or join us here next week. Same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.